Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Resident Rulebreakers. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Camille.
And today's podcast, we are doing an episode discussion on episode 102 called Independence Day. It's 4th of July weekend, so we felt that the title kind of fit in with the theme of the fact that it's a holiday weekend here in the U.S. where we're taping this.
So happy 4th of July.
Yes, happy 4th of July. Yeah, belated, because it's actually July the 5th. We're recording this.
So happy belated 4th of July to everybody. Hope you guys social distance your parties.
Yes.
Or whatever. It's like maybe via Zoom. Or, and watch the fireworks. But yeah, so anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed their 4th of July. Ate barbecue and watched illegal fireworks and, social distance, I guess. I don't know what the right thing is. Anyway, but yeah.
So there's that. Before we get into the episode, we are going to talk about some of the latest news that's come from the fandom, because it's been a while since we've actually recorded a podcast. So the first thing is we recently got a tentative restart date for them to restart filming from Morris Chestnut, who did a Q&A over Instagram with a friend of his. And he said it was August 10th. And of course, as we've told you multiple times before, they film in Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. Georgia is a hot spot for COVID-19. Like, nasty. Like,
people aren't wearing masks.
Oh, no. And we're going to get into that in a moment. But the fact is, this date could change drastically because the unions, the actors unions, and the unions that govern how they do these shows have strict restrictions on how they're supposed to handle it. We talked about these restrictions before, on how they're supposed to deal with all this, the masks and the hand sanitizer and everything.
Yeah. And also the thing about it is, like when we talked to Amy, she said that they have to like balance, I guess, like, because there are people who need to get back to work, so to make money and to, take care of their families or whatever. But also there's this health issue. So there's like this balance of like when's too early and when's too late, and when's the right time, and what to do and what not to do. I saw an article focusing on like Georgia filming. I lost it, but I think it was Deadline or Variety who put out an article about Georgia productions, such as The Resident, and talking about like COVID-19 and when it's safe to start stuff like
that. But as of July the 4th, Georgia, since the pandemic was fully started, has had over 90,493 cases.
Deaths or cases?
They are 9th in the country out of 50 states.
Deaths or cases?
On cases since the pandemic started.
But what about in deaths?
In the last week, they have had 19,000 cases. 19,398 cases in the state of Georgia. But yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing that frustrates me, is that people are talking about like, I'm not wearing a mask, you can't make me or whatever. But the thing about it is, it's not about you, it's about other people. Mm-hmm. Like, people need to stop worrying about themselves and start taking care of others. I mean, stop being selfish.
But so, and I looked at for the whole entire United States, 851 per every 100,000 people have a positive identification for COVID-19. But the other thing, because we posted something on Instagram, because Manish posted and Bruce posted and Jeanette posted, they were all like, just wear the mask. And so we're pretty much telling you, wear your mask, and you can get things back that you totally missed, like TV shows or say sports, football and baseball, or can go back and I mean, there's how many baseball players have gotten COVID because they've been in practice. So,
also, like, yeah.
So just wear your mask.
To all those who are saying that you can't breathe through a mask or whatever, you do realize that doctors wear masks every day. Same with nurses, and nobody's died yet from wearing a mask any other regular day.
So wear your mask when you go out. Use hand sanitizer, a Clorox wipe, something. Wipe your hands, and you'll be fine. Sanitize everything. You'll be fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So for the episode 102 was written by Amy Holden Jones, who is the show's co-creator. I wanted to mention Amy wrote this one by herself. So
yeah, executive producer, creator, writer.
We're doing a series. We just because we're in hiatus, so we have a lot of episodes we haven't on podcast for, a lot of them, and so we're just going back and doing rewatching, and hoping y'all will follow along through the series.
And hopefully we get interviews somewhere.
Yeah,
sprinkled in there too.
But yeah, a lot of people I need to rewatch it because I don't remember the earlier stuff. So this is what this is kind of for. Because there's stuff I sat there going, oh, that makes more sense now. Once you fill in the gap, you're like, oh, okay, yeah. So the first topic we have today is Devon. And this episode, he doesn't actually have a lot of screen time, but he's got a big plot line. So
the whole episode is pretty much about him.
Yeah, the whole episode is pretty
Independence Day is about his day.
Yeah. His day of independence from Conrad. And
Conrad was like, don't change me.
As I call it, like it's Conrad giving Devon a trial by fire pretty much.
Yeah.
In the first scene with Devon, he's pretty much sucking up to Hunter, which it's like this is her first episode, Lane Hunter.
Irony.
Yeah.
Ironic. We can pretty much spend a whole episode on Lane.
Which we're gonna discuss her, but just not right now. But the first scene was him sucking up to Hunter, and she was like, "Oh, don't worry, I like being sucked up to."
Yeah.
But
she in late Conrad was like, I sucking up what work with me, but obviously it worked with Conrad.
But I love that, because Conrad in this episode, and we're gonna get to that, is completely consumed by his case with Micah. Yes, also Micah's introduction to the show. Yeah. A lot of characters are truly introduced in this episode. And but Devon is left handling like 20 patients, which should never happen for one doctor. And with only Nick to help him, and Conrad's like, and you can't page me. And he's like, it's a sign of weakness. I'm like, Conrad, you really need therapy. You really need therapy, dude. But anyway, Nick is like, yeah, I'll help you, Devon, whatever. But yeah, he was completely overwhelmed. Like, everyone's just like talking at him, or one on top of the other, and he's like, what? And then, Nick's reminding him to use his stethoscope, and he ended up finding a heart murmur. So, ended up saving someone's life because he used the stethoscope. So he learned his lesson there. Just a lot of things that Devon learned throughout the course of the episode. And I really loved that he was like, at the end of the episode, he was like, because Conrad could have easily said, "You suck, Devon," and, you know, not giving him the time of day and fired him, but then we wouldn't have had a show, right? But he tells him pretty much he's not his slave or his echo or his shadow or whatever. And yeah, he could have easily, then they wouldn't have had a show. So Conrad just like, it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I was like really proud of Devon. Interns would have not stood up to their residents the way he did. So there's that. And then our next topic is Conrad. And Conrad obviously has a big storyline because they're trying to establish his character because he's the main character. I mean, between him and
Devon.
He's still an ass at this point. I keep having to point that out to people. They're like, the pilot, it got me hooked. I'm like, Conrad's perfect. I'm like, no, he's not.
He's a racist, misogynistic. Yeah. So anyway, I remember now having this discussion with Amy, and I got actually, especially with this episode, is that I don't. At this point in time, both Belle and Conrad, Belle kind of told them this. Conrad is pretty much the same as Belle in that they're both willing to break the rules. Even Nick, told Conrad this. Like, if it didn't work out with Chloe's mom or whatever, well, then the congressman would have died and Micah would have gotten the heart, even though technically that's not the way it was supposed to be. But Conrad was willing to risk that and whatever. So he was willing to break the rules. So it's like swapping, testing.
But I sit here thinking to myself, like, first off, Nick called him out on it and said, "You can't play God, Conrad." Yeah. Which I love. I love the fact that she's willing to just, even no matter what state of their relationship, she's willing to call him out no matter what. Bill actually called him out on it too.
Yeah.
But the thing that gets me is, I've actually said this before about Conrad because it's brought back up in season 3. He has got a moral gray zone where he does things that he thinks are right because it saves a patient, and it's morally wrong or ethically wrong. And this swapping the test out is illegally wrong at this point. Is one of them. The one where he withholds the morphine in season 3 is another example of Conrad has a gray moral zone.
That's why I said it. It's like, I don't, I said this in season 1 and I got a lot of flack from it, including from Amy. But, where I said that Conrad and Belle are the same. I don't understand how Belle is the villain and Conrad is like viewed as the hero, even though they're doing the exact same thing. You know what I mean? Yes, for
I know what you're coming from.
Reasons.
Yeah.
Well, what is doing it for honorable reasons and what is doing it for like money or whatever. But still, if things had worked out the way it did for Micah and the Congressman, you'd have one person dead and one person alive, even though that's not how it was supposed to be legally. I mean, Hiatus has this whole mathematics thing or whatever that had the Congressman, getting the heart, not Micah, because Micah was stable. The Congressman wasn't. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But it was
like God.
It's like it was presented because the Congressman was he was a politician. He had money, blah blah blah. He was presented that he got bumped to the top of the list and blah 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 and got his heart. And Micah, because he's a poor science teacher, he can't get a heart transplant. In a way, it kind of was presented that way. And
I mean, anyone who watches Grey's Anatomy knows about this whole Hiatus thing. You got Danny the pet with like an Alpad wire, whatever. But like I said, I don't think it had. I mean, maybe money was a factor, sort of, but Hiatus wasn't about money. It was about, like I said, who was in a worse state.
But
And
the way that it was presented
it
from
looked like Holden was on a ventilator and Micah was still conscious and alive without being on a ventilator.
Mm-hmm. But the way it was presented from Bell, like the way he talked to the congressman was like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll get you bumped to the top, blah blah blah." And it was
Because of money.
Because of money. That's the way it was presented, like to me.
Yeah.
And going back
it was all to make Bell look like this bad person, but really, so was Conrad.
Yeah. I mean, and actually, because in the very first scene where before Micah collapses in his classroom, like Conrad gives this whole story about Marshall, and like it's your first picture of what happened, like with Marshall. And Marshall
was painted in a car accident or something.
It wasn't a car, like they witnessed a car accident, but Conrad witnessed someone save the life of the person.
He said he wanted to be
the person that saves lives.
Yeah.
But it didn't paint Marshall in a very good light. But we all know that Conrad hated Marshall, like for a long time. He hated his.
I think that was the first mention of Marshall without actually giving him a name.
Yeah, without but they truly painted him in a bad light before we ever met him.
Before we even knew his name. But So has anyone ever have we found out why Marshall and Conrad have different last names? I've seen that
I've been trying to figure out, did Conrad take his mother's maiden name?
Yeah.
That would be the only plausible thing, like to honor his mother, and because he was so mad at his father, he swapped his last name or changed his last name to his mother's maiden name. That's the only thing I can possibly think of. But yeah, I really, that scene, because they're trying to paint Conrad as this hero doctor, and he saves Micah, and so I did like that. But I love the fact that Conrad fought for Micah in terms of getting him a good surgeon, in terms of Mina being in the OR. Like at first Mina was going to be in the OR to make sure that no one botched his surgery. She's a good surgeon. No matter what, she's a good surgeon, and she wanted Micah to get well. Like this wasn't like at the beginning of all this. It wasn't.
This was before Mina and Micah was a thing.
It was before Mina and Micah were a thing. Yeah, absolutely. Because
I was watching for the interaction to see if there was like any hint of anything, especially from Micah, but there was like zero, nothing. So I feel like their hookup was like out of the blue.
Yeah, it was. But like eventually Micah's heart arrives from Enos, and I love the call.
Heart in a box. It was a heart in a box.
Yeah, it was a heart in a box. But like I love that call, because Nick's like, and we're gonna talk about Conic in a moment, but Nick's like, I have your heart. So but I did love like the way they were. I don't, like you said, Conrad and Belle were very similar in the very beginning of the show, but there was one difference, and it was the fact that Conrad was really truly trying to do it for the health of the patient, and Belle was like, it's all about the bottom line, it's about the money, well, no matter what, it's about the money.
The thing about it is Conrad was doing it for the help of his patient at the risk of losing another patient. You get what I'm saying?
Because they literally have a scene in this episode where they are talking about trying to pull Chloe from the pilot, Devon's first case, off of her ventilator.
Devon said it was his first medical error.
Yeah. They're trying to pull her off, and Conrad's like, I can't do this. It's not right for me to talk to them because it would benefit another patient of mine. They had to get Belle involved to get that heart. So, but every time Conrad shows up, Belle's just like, oh, seriously, Conrad, Go away.
Actually,
Bruce's reaction was epic. I love it.
I actually like the whole monologue. You know, the scene where Belle and Conrad were walking together, and Conrad was like pretty much trying to sell him Micah. You know, be like, he's 28 years old. He's a great science teacher. This heart could help him for like 60 years or whatever. This congressman is gonna live another 10 years, etc. Try to sell him on Micah. And one thing that caught my attention was Conrad saying that, Micah has had 3 chances for a heart. This was like his 3rd time, getting a heart, but it like was taken from him. You know what I mean? Like he was in and out of the hospital 3 times, and each time thinking that there was a heart for him, but it did and stuff. Like that's sad.
Yeah. And this time that wasn't the case. And the congressman and Micah both got hearts. And actually, in a previous podcast, we said something that Micah got Chloe's heart. I don't think he did. I think the congressman did. And Micah got the original heart.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So sorry about that, guys. That shows you that even we forget part of plot lines on episodes. So this is why we're going back and rewatching, because this is how we remember things. So the next plot point is Conic, because there was pretty much the only relationship stuff we have in the whole show at this point. And unless you want to talk about Hunter and Belle, and then no. But I do love one of the very first scenes is like Conrad's like, Nick, just join me for breakfast. Can we do like the old times? And she's like, no.
Yeah.
But the heart
had the iconic scene for me in that episode was when Conrad was like, "Oh, I love it when you believe in me."
Yes, and that's Nick one of my favorites.
Nick was like, "I always did, I never stopped," or something like that. And they were holding hands, and Nick was comforting Conrad as they deal with heart.
But yeah, I do. I have a note here that it says, if she has your heart, then stop being an asshole to her. Because like later in the episode, he says he has no clue why they broke up, and I'm sitting here going, dude, she pretty much told you why they broke up. You wouldn't open up, dude. Yeah. You punched a guy in the bathroom. So there's a reason why she dumped you. But until much later on, I doubt Conrad really got it. He's like, oh, now I get it. But yeah. And I wish they had been clearer about their backstory early on, so it wouldn't be so confusing. But it clicked once I saw this. It's like, oh, it's clicking now. But yeah, the holding hands and I always believed in you. I love that scene.
Yeah, I like that. Even though they broke up, if they are
professionally, they're capable of dealing with it. Yeah.
Huh?
Professionally, they're good.
Yeah, even though they were still not together in this episode, they were both there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. During hard times and stuff. I honestly felt so bad for Conrad, like how close he was to Micah and stuff, how hard he was fighting for the guy.
But the thing that I have listed here, I also question why Nick wasn't so more open about the fact that she had issues with how closed off he was. So I think it goes both ways here. Their relationship falling apart was on both of them for not talking. So that's But yeah, going back and rewatching, it was really like seeing it in a new light once I was like, oh, okay, cool. And like I said, we've already said that Nick called him out for playing God with the blood test. She's not afraid to call him out, and that is something that he needs. He needs a partner that's like, you need to back away. So I like that.
Nick can check him.
Mm-hmm.
But
everyone needs a check and balance system.
Yeah.
The next topic we have is Mina, because she's just like the goddess of, this surgical suite, right?
I know that Amy wanted her to give her a heart, I guess, because when we talked to her, she said that her inspiration was Spock to make Mina very logical and not feelings or whatever. And then they gave her romance and stuff like that, give her more heart. But to be honest with you, I kind of like this Spock Mina better, because this is the Mina that I fell in love with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Very logical. And of course, I guess because I grew up with Star Trek, I understood the reference right away, what she was saying.
Yeah, I'm a Trekkie.
I'm a Trekkie too. Like,
just not cosplay.
No, not that
Comic-Con. Trekkie.
No. But I do enjoy watching it, and it's one of the things me and my father did together. So it's kind of that connection I have to him.
But yeah, I miss that logical emotion, not less emotional, Mina, because she's hilarious. I like when she offered to talk to Chloe's mom,
and they're all like, no,
no, don't even start.
Because if you've seen the pilot, she can't get a death note. Well, like, it's like he's dead, and I'm like, that's not how you do that.
But she's awesome. This is like, oh my god, like we need this Mina badass. That's emotional.
But yeah, like
kill surgery.
Conrad, like, reached out to her because he knew that she would be there for Micah.
Yep. And also,
I loved her interactions with Belle. Like, she just called him out. She's like, you blackmail me, dude. You blackmail me over I'm not helping you. You tried to stop my visa.
But Conrad used her, sort of, because Belle was like, okay, fine, I keep quiet that you switch the test results, but you gotta give me what I want. So in order for Conrad to, stay out of trouble and keep his medal license, he had to get Mina to help Belle.
Because Belle's hands were shaking, and he didn't want to mess up the Congressman and kill him.
Oh, Dad is still there.
Yeah, still there at this point. And so we're like, and at the end of the episode, when they're doing the surgery, Mina's actually performing it. Belle's actually telling her what to do because his hands are so shaky.
So, and so he tried to use the excuse like, oh, my technique, I'm not going to be a surgeon forever, so I need to pass it on to you. Here's the scalpel or whatever. But here's the thing about it is it seems to me like Mina knew what she was doing. It really didn't need Belle. Except for the one part where he pointed out some kind of artery or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is.
But I absolutely love that that aspect. And then there's obviously Belle, and they're with the congressman and the lobbyist. And by the way, I doubt doctors need to be powwowing with congressmen and lobbyists. That's just corruption all over. So.
Well, let's be honest here. They're all in the hospital because of a hunting accident. because the congressman shot the lobbyist in the butt. So
Probably was having a heart attack.
Okay, and that was okay. First of all, Tasso having to pull out the bullets and first he tried to get Mina to do it, and he's like, Mina, here, you're a surgeon, you can pull out the bullets, and it's like, these are all flash wounds, you can have anybody else do it. But she laughed. Then I think it was a nurse or I don't know who was there, and the nurse was like, nurse fake paged. Remember,
Irving's pretty famous for this too. He tries to get other people to do stuff that he doesn't want to do, and this is a running gag for Irving actually. And he tries to put it off on Devon a lot because he can.
Yeah, because he's an intern.
Yeah,
but the lady that was also in the room with Irving. Fake page, because she put her hand in the scrub's pocket, and all of a sudden the pager went off, and she was like, "Oh, why it's paging me?" Like, I'm God. And so Irving.
Anyway, but yeah, I loved how he kept Irving kept trying to put it off on, and like Devon eventually tries to start helping him. And actually, I really love it because like Devon found that the lobbyist had a pulmonary embolism. And they ended up catching it. And actually, because Devon read the chart, he was able to get him a safer surgery, which Devon pointed out.
Which is what he brought up with Conrad. Because Conrad was trying to tell him, well, you could have done it via femoral artery or whatever, so you didn't need a thoracotomy. And that's when Devon was like, well, you didn't see his chart. And I saw his chart.
Because he had a bleeding thing, a bleeding disorder.
Yeah, it was a platelet
thing.
Disorder or whatever. Yeah. And if they did the less invasive procedure, which is what Conrad was yelling at him about, the guy would have died. But because they did the more invasive surgery, which was thoracotomy, the guy lived or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I liked how Devon pretty much told him off on that one.
I absolutely I was like, go Devon. And I think he learned from Nick, like you really have to pay attention, and using the stethoscope, that really
Nick told him about that.
Yeah.
Because he was just looking at the EKG or whatever. Mm-hmm. But he didn't hear the murmur. The murmur wasn't in the EKG. He could hear it only through the stethoscope. But I mean, like, isn't that supposed to be what every doctor does? Whenever you see a patient, first thing you gotta do is
one of the first things I get checked with is a stethoscope. And I don't even care what type of doctor's visit it is. I've always been checked with a stethoscope.
Yeah, you have to like breathe in.
Yeah.
Breathe out.
Because usually, like, I'll just go to the doctor to get blood work done, and they'll check me. So.
Yeah. It's part of the vitals when they hook you up to the blood pressure machine and stuff like that. They also do the stethoscope.
Yep. And then of course Lily's in this episode because it carries over from the pilot. And played by Violet Bean. And of course, honestly, Hunter's storyline is directly tied to Lily's throughout the whole entire thing. Because
this is when Nick starts getting suspicious because she was taking care of Lily, and she noticed that her white blood cell count was low. She told Lane about it. Lane kind of scolded her for questioning Lane anyway, but then Nick wanted to check Lily's medical records, and that's when she realized that the medical records were gone. And like I said, that's when Nick started becoming suspicious. She even told Conrad about it.
Conrad's like, well, she's a cancer doctor. All her stuff's over in her clinic. That's a very convenient way to hide something.
Exactly. And also the thing about it, I don't know if you noticed, but I took a note of this. The Congressman said at the beginning of the episode that his sister was saved by Lane, that his sister had breast cancer. or something like that. I am now curious, knowing Lane's history, knowing Lane was faking cancer with infections or whatever. Did Congressman's sister really have breast cancer?
Because she was known for going after people who could afford to be charged that kind of money and stuff.
Congressman's sister fits that category. Also, I wonder what the congressman was thinking now, knowing that Lane, was doing all this with faking the records and stuff like that. Like, I wish they had kind of like a follow-up on what the congressman may have thought of Lane after.
But yeah, I was really mad at Hunter for like forcing them to discharge Lily, because it's like she didn't care. And I was like, something's off with this woman. Like, something's really like, I know doctors who are just like, get this patient in, get them out. They need a bed. I've seen it happen where the patient really needs to stay, but they're like, push them out. We need the bed. I have seen that, but like, this is just her being a jerk and a really bad doctor. And I wrote in big bold letters, I hate Lane Hunter. I mean, this episode made me really suspicious of her. There was one other thing, when they were in the bar, Conrad and Nick were dancing, and the song was called We're Gonna Make It, and that's some big foreshadowing from a second episode. So
I think there'll be 2 seasons to figure it out, but yeah.
Well, guys, that's really all we have for today. I just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for all your interest in all the interviews we've had over the past month. We've really enjoyed seeing your comments and your likes. And the new subscribers, thank you. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to either, whether it be YouTube or SoundCloud or Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, all of it. And then obviously follow us on social media or email us. Our email is thepresidentrulebreakers@gmail.com. And then our social media, Facebook, which is, there's 2 things. There's a Facebook page, which is the Resident Rulebreakers podcast. And then there's the Facebook group, which is, there's a little button at the top of the podcast Facebook page, and it'll take you to the Facebook group. If you're not a member, please join. If you are, then you're already set. Then we have our Twitter, which is @Resident Podcast. We have our Instagram, which is @The Resident Podcast. And then we have our personal Instagrams. Mine's @KBCountry37. Camille is @The Resident on Fox Fans. So you can follow us there for.
Also, we have a Patreon account, which still we have 0 patrons. And I know that, people might be low on money, but if you like us, if you like the content that we are giving and all of our interviews and stuff, please become our patron. The lowest that you can donate is like $1 a month.
So, we're okay with that, and you can cancel anytime you need to. But we will use the money wisely and help the podcast grow. So,
buy editing software, that kind of thing. And if we get enough patrons, we might.
It might even help us get more interviews, like say Matt. That money can go towards that. But yeah, if you want to get Matt on the Resident Rulebreakers, the best way to do it would be through donating to our Patreon. So there's that. Yes. You can. With all that being said, we are going to, the next podcast we are going to be doing is an interview with Marqui Jackson, who is the co-executive producer of The Resident. And in that interview, he talks about things like breaking into Hollywood, as a Black writer. And
the struggles of being a Black writer, his inspiration or his writing process for writing episodes, and also, advice.
And I have to say, for shippers of Conic and Minotaur, he's written some amazing plot line for those two ships. Y'all are going to really...
Let me put it this way, for all the shippers, all of your episodes that you think of, but you're thinking Conic or Minotaur, it's thanks to Marqui. From 3 Words, where he was talking, where they did the background story, Marqui was the one who said, you know what? We need to know the backstory of Conic. What else? Minotaur, the kiss? He was the one who said, Amy, the fans want them to kiss. We need
even if it's in a dream, we need it.
Yes. So, all the shipper fans.
So next week, that's why our podcast is an interview with Marqui. The next week is what we want in season 4, and we're going to be discussing a lot of topics we want in season 4, the big ones anyway. Then next week behind that will be a continuation of this series of rewatching The Resident from the beginning, and it's going to be 103 Conrads and Ours. We're going to be discussing Conrad and Jude and their friendship, and Conrad's backstory with the military and stuff like that. So stay tuned for all that for July, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a good day, guys. Bye.
Aloha.